Well, we are in the gap between LCS finishing and Worlds beginning, and so I am really excited to be able to chat with somebody because normally everybody's just like gone. And today I'm talking to Jordan Sherman from Immortals, who's the president and chief commercial officer. You joined relatively recently, yes?
Yeah, in May.
In May. Okay, so I think for especially for League fans, this might be one of the first times that they are seeing you. They might be more familiar with Ari or any of the folks on the League side. So, what is your background?
So my background's always been in traditional sports and then later in esports. So I came up, I grew up in Michigan. I lived in New York. I worked at Major League Baseball in the league office for 6 years. And then I moved to LA. I worked for the Los Angeles Clippers in the NBA. And then after that, in 2018, I got the opportunity to move over to Gen G. So I was one of the early employees at Gen G and helped kind of build up our partnerships and revenue operations. We started in LA and it was kind of literally, it was just me. We had people in Korea already and we had some in San Francisco, but we wanted to build out LA into like a major US headquarters. Over the course of 3 years, we did it. We launched a Fortnite team and became first all women's Fortnite team. We had Apex Legends, we had Call of Duty for a little bit. Like we brought in all these influencers. We were growing out the team. We were bringing in new partners. And after 3 years there, I got an opportunity in May to come on at Immortals and kind of expand my scope a little bit from beyond partnerships into being the president of the org, overseeing all different areas of operations from competitive to marketing to partnerships. So I've been in esports and gaming since 2018 and been in traditional sports since 2010. And it's been just an awesome run. I've learned a lot and I've always kind of been working in like digital and social entertainment.
Really, it's cool to hear. We we are talking today specifically about some cool stuff that Immortals is doing for the fans and some initiatives you guys have planned right now. So why don't you kick us off with maybe whichever one you think is best to start with.
Cool. Well, today we announced for our merch zero profit pricing. So we kind of looked at our team and we looked at our promises that we made to the community, which was want to be more accessible, we want to be more open and transparent about what's happening in our org. We want to give people reason to want to come back to Immortals and be our fans, while also honoring the diehards that we have. So we're looking at all different elements of our business and how can we innovate, how can we transform. And one that really stuck out to us was we needed new merch. We looked at the industry. We saw we had a lot of younger fans who are just kind of starting off in their lives. Maybe they have a job or they're early in their career. And we saw a lot of merch being just premium and in some cases overly expensive. So we decided, what if we just kind of told our fans, we're going to drop a new collection. It's going to be really high quality, but we're not going to take $1 from it. Zero profit pricing. We want you to be a fan. We want to give back to you. If you want to buy an Immortal shirt, that's excellent. If you already have somebody else's shirt and you just kind of like the strategy or you like our logo, that's great too. But we need to kind of do things first that are for the community. And what we say is like, we got to be about it. And in some cases, we're going to have to take risks and make decisions that maybe seem non-traditional or unorthodox at the time, like taking no profit from your merchandise. But we think in the long term, it's the right thing to do because we have to really like listen to the community and provide like unique reasons for them to like, want to be fans and participate. So I'm really proud of it. We're getting really nice feedback on it because the materials and stuff is good. But beyond that, it's like, it's almost, for us, it's like, welcome back to Immortals. This is us trying to give something to the community.
So is this something that will be occurring across all of your merchandise, or is it a specific collection? Like how, what should fans expect from the whole strategy?
Yep. So as of right now, so there's a whole new collection with our essentials line that's zero profit, and everything that was pre-existing on the site also zero profit. So there's no merchandise in market right now that we're taking any profit off of.
Gotcha.
So hopefully, the community likes it. We get really good feedback. The sales do well, and we can continue the strategy. Who knows what happens on different lines 5-10 years down the line or whatever else. But as of today, right now, every unit we have in our store is zero profit.
Well, okay. So, very exciting news. What was the decision making behind going in this direction? Because obviously, there's always a lot of levers to pull. I think this is the first time that I've ever talked to an esports team that is doing something like this. So, why did you guys decide on merchandise as like one of the key areas to really try to connect with people and to make it very approachable?
I think for esports as a community and really as like just an industry, there's so few opportunities to be a fan. I came from traditional sports, and if you're a Yankees fan, you can buy a Yankees hat, you can go to a Yankees game, you can stream their games on TV, you can follow their players on social. Like there's all these opportunities to express your fandom. And I think because gaming and esports is younger and a lot of these fan expression opportunities are in their early days, you don't really get that many opportunities. And when you take away, home matches, for example, now you've gotten even less opportunities to actually showcase that you're a fan of the brand. And one of those that's kind of left is merchandise. So it's a really important way to showcase I am a fan of the brand. Like I had something the other day where I was on a plane and I saw someone wearing a rival team's t-shirt, and I went up to them and I was like, "Hey, do you work at this company?" And the person looked at me like I was crazy, because I just assumed that they were an employee. I didn't actually even realize they were a fan. And for me in that moment, I was like, okay, this is really changing now, where you're starting to see people showcase their alliance and their allegiance to different teams. And you're seeing it just in normal situations. So it's a unique place for us. Okay, if merchandise is this angle, then how do we make it as accessible as possible? And as you look at the pricing, in some cases it's a lot. It's a lot to go out there and make that purchase. So we went to We Are Nations, who provides the jerseys for us and the t-shirts and the hoodies, and we were like, are you guys okay with this strategy? It's a little bit different. We went to Point 3, who's another provider, and to their credit, they were down. They said, we'll do this. We support it. We want more people to know about it. And we kind of beta tested it with our employees and some of our super fans, and everybody really liked it. So once we kind of lined that up, this is a really good spot for us to give our fans a place to express their fandom. We think it's a vertical that's growing. The people who we bring this to like it. It kind of all came together, and the response we're getting is great.
What does the pricing look like on this stuff? Because obviously, I think a lot of people don't know what the margins are, right? So it's hard for them to understand what that actually is going to come to be whenever they're shopping for a t-shirt or something.
So we did this whole strategy where we analyzed everybody in the market and what they have and push the margins as low as we can. So a typical t-shirt is about 25 to 30. Ours is $17.15.
Okay.
A typical hoodie is 60 to 90. Ours is $40.15. We did 15 cents because we were founded in 2015. So we thought that was kind of a fun thing to keep it all flat like that. A hat is typically 30. Ours is $17.15. A long sleeve is typically 35. Ours is $24.15. So all this stuff is a pretty considerable discount. We actually saw a guy come in this morning, and a person, we don't know who it is, and buy 10 hats right after we announced this.
Oh, really?
So yeah.
Clear.
So
got some sort of team situation going on there, or company. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe it's some type of party or birthday or something. But that was a really cool moment because we've been keeping an eye on the site and looking at the feedback. And when we got that first order of 10, we were like, oh shoot, we might be onto something.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, so it sounds like this is part of a broader plan that you guys have in order to, both celebrate existing fans, but also to entice new fans over to Immortals. What else are you guys up to these days that are in line with the strategy? Or is there anything else you can talk about yet? Or is this one of, many different things you guys are doing going forward?
Yeah, so we have many. I think let's talk competitive for a second, because I think that's important. It's very key to our company that we want to be at the top echelon, especially next year with Worlds being in the US. We want to be on stage at Worlds when it's here. Everything that we talk about with our company is let's build up to that moment. We talk about it in partnerships. We talk about it with our staff members, talk about it with our players. Let's get there. Now, what is the path to getting there? I think that's something that we need to be able to tell to fans in a way that's meaningful. And one thing that I've been always pushing on, and I think that we all are, is what is the development angle and what is the consistency? How do we actually help people come into our system, understand what Immortals is about, get better over time, want to stay here? And does it always have to be about getting the highest priced players or getting players that who've been successful in other systems? Why can't we develop people and bring our fans the opportunity to watch someone grow and develop over time? Like, what is that arc at Immortal? So I think it's like, as we talk about fans and fan narratives and following players and being competitive, while that isn't like a specific good, like we're giving as merchandise, I think that's a super key component to what we're going to be able to bring back, and something that we've been really thinking about and working with our GM and with our head coach, Andre, who's been on the show, is like really evaluating like, how do we build up the current players that we have? How do we build the right training system in place? Who else is out there that we think represents the Immortals brands well? And like, who wants to be here and who wants to grow with us? And I think you'll see a lot of really interesting steps that we're going to take in the player development realm.
So this is very interesting to me because I, was a big fan and continue to be a big fan of what Immortals did this year. Golden Guardians, very similar. The teams that took risks on players and said, hey, like, our goal is not necessarily to go to Worlds. It's like a stretch goal maybe, but not for us in 2021. And I think the league needed a lot of that because we had a lot of people that would just sort of take veterans who had fallen off and all that. I am very surprised to hear that you guys are hoping for Worlds next year. Not because I doubt the value of the players, but to date, it seems as though the way you get there is by spending a tremendous amount of money. And while that doesn't guarantee you it, as you know, we saw with TSM this year, you know, we do have basically a world where I think roughly, I don't know where CLG lands on it, but like the 5 teams that were spending the most in the LCS this year are the 5 teams that place top 5. And so I look at Immortals' budget, which right now is, I think, at least in spring, I think you guys were near the bottom of the league. It's like maybe bottom 2 with Golden Guardians. And I worry that if the goal is to then take this roster or one that is pretty close to it to Worlds next year without spending a ton, I feel like that's going to be wild. Like it's weird to hear the goal is shifting in such a short time, because I feel like maybe, you know, you could take like 2 or 3 of these guys and then you plug in some other folks and then you can get there. That's kind of what 100 Thieves was able to do with the Golden Guardians roster last year, adding Someday and Abadage. But it is a very bold plan, I guess is what I will say, to aim for Worlds for next year is my interpretation.
Well, I don't disagree, but we're also working from the notion that you can only make it to Worlds if you spend X amount of money. And I think that's what we're trying to solve and really think through is like, what is the value of just being as a team together for longer than one season? Or what is the value for having, like in a traditional sport, a team captain that can explain to new people, like, this is how we do things here. This is how our training is. And it starts like when you have a really great coach and a great leadership staff like we have, who can kind of like implement, okay, who are the players that reflect really well with their style? Maybe who are some additional pieces we need to complement it and up level. But does it have to be done in a sense where in order to make it to Worlds, you have to spend this amount of money? And we know that we're going against the grain in terms of the development angle and the keeping players consistent. But we still kind of feel like esports and gaming, it's young enough that there hasn't been enough opportunity given to people to like actually stick together. And that's kind of a bet that we're willing to take and willing to make. And then on top of that, I would say, you know, what's interesting about kind of the way we're operating our teams is we feel like we've found players that are going to take a level up jump. Like the way we were playing towards the end of the season versus the beginning, it was a big difference. And the vibe and the energy after our Dignitas victory in the playoffs was tremendous. And even the week before TSM, you know, it didn't end the way we went, but it was a real energy around the team and around the company. And I'm always kind of thinking like, how do we keep that consistent? Like, how do we build off that? And if you just bring in a whole nother group, you're starting from scratch again.
Yeah.
So who are the core pieces?
I mean, I agree a lot with the LCS needs more roster stability, right? Like, again, I'm in favor of the fact that a lot of teams went and started to develop something. I just, you know, whenever I looked at Immortals, I was like, okay, maybe that's like a 3-year project, but I guess I will be watching intently during the off season, because I feel like you'll have to make at least 1 or 2 changes if you guys want to be competing in like
Sure.
throwing punches with TL and Cloud9, 100T, TSM for those spots. Even EG, I think, looked really, really good.
I
On
think that's what we'll
oh, go ahead.
probably net out. Is like right, like where you're thinking is probably the ballpark in which we net out.
Um, one of the things I wanted to chat with you a little bit is like 2020 Immortals seemed like a very, from the league side in particular, uninteresting org. You know, did not do very well competitively, did not do much from a brand perspective to get people excited. There was a lot of excitement when Immortals came back into the league because obviously there was fandom from back in the day, and it just felt like the organization was unable to deliver on that. At the beginning of this year, I remember distinctly the video of Mike walking around the Rift map and talking about all the things that Immortals wanted to do for this coming year to get back the fandom. And while I loved having Gyoto and the players there, it definitely didn't feel like the brand was able to activate and like really grow and like gain much off of just the increased interest in the team off of the competitive results. It's cool to hear you guys are doing this now, but also the season is over for Immortals. So I guess why did it take until now for us to start seeing some of this stuff? Maybe you guys did something and I missed it, but what's been going on this year? Because back in January we thought we'd be hearing something exciting, and now it feels like it's really only the first time in September that I'm like, oh, this might be part of that.
Yeah. Well, it's a little bit hard for me just coming in May, but I can kind of give you some thoughts based on what I've seen so far. Is number one, I think we needed to bring in some staff members that were from the league culture who could really resonate better with fans. So we brought on a director of brand who came from Ubisoft, who was one of the biggest Immortals League of Legends fans that we could find, who also had a specialty in actually bringing games to market to consumers. So that was the person, like literally my first day in the job, first hour I called him and I was like, this is my number one priority right now, is like bringing somebody into the company that is an actual fan, that has experience building fandoms around games and can help us tap back into all the things that people like about Immortals. And we were successful in bringing them in. And then we brought on somebody on the partnership side who was really good, an amazing seller that I had worked with previously. And I said, we need someone who can help actually bring real brands into this community to help support it, but do so in a way where they don't see it for, it's like, okay, we just want to talk to this demographic. It's like they actually want to bring value and like enhance what the league scene is doing. So we got that person, we brought him in. So it's like we wanted to realign our staff, orchestrate things of that nature. We have the merchandise strategy, which I think is going to be really important in kind of making fans more accessible. I'm so happy to be on the show and just super respect what you do. And I think what we need to do also is like show up in places physically and digitally where fans are. And everyone talks about being transparent. That's super important. No one will ever be fully transparent. It's impossible. There's just some things you can't share, but we can be what we're calling is like maximally accessible. So if you want to get Immortals on a show, or Immortals wants to talk to someone from the fan community, we're going to do it. And I think we have to do it. And I think that's probably a little bit of like a shift change in terms of kind of being open and talking about the things that we're going through as a company. And I think personally, across esports, there's a lot of like, we will do it if. We will do that thing if there's a partner associated. We will do it if we think it's going to get us to Worlds. We will do it if somebody says it's okay. And what I've really been pushing is we're just going to do it because if we don't do things and we don't actually show fans what we're about, we're never going to be able to change the narrative. And that's why I think the merch thing is kind of part of that too. It's like, let's take some risks. Let's put ourselves out there, even if it maybe potentially affects our bottom line a little bit, because otherwise everyone's going to say like what you said, which is like, you said you were going to do all these things. What happened? You never did it.
I mean, it's good to hear that you guys are looking at all these different opportunities, and I'm always a huge advocate of. I mean, I personally benefit a lot whenever a team is like, hey, yeah, we'll make people accessible, we'll do that stuff. So I always love to hear it. I one of the interesting things that I have seen over the past couple of years is it feels like the stretch, the range for which organizations are willing and able to financially commit to different things is broadening dramatically, right? And so you have things like the TSM stuff where they unlock this FTX thing, and then they're like, our training facility is becoming bigger and more expensive, and blah blah blah. They're doing all these things. You've got 100 Thieves, which just has signed all these influencers and is doing crazy partnerships and all that type of stuff. And then you also see the stuff reflected in the spend that they're putting towards players, which sometimes I think is probably a little too much. On the other hand, it's felt like the FlyQuest, the Golden Guardians, the Immortals of the world, even though I know you guys are in other games probably more than either of those other brands, it still feels like you guys are coming at things from like a very grassroots, lower budget type of angle. So do you think it's difficult at all to keep up with these guys whenever they can just throw stuff, more money at things than some of these other organizations, including Immortals?
It's what's interesting, and I had the same perspective on Immortals when I was interviewing before I worked here. And after starting and kind of going through the process, what I learned about it was, and now we're here, our business is contribution margin positive across all of our business units. So what that means is each one of our teams brings in more money than comes out. Through sponsorship and league revenue share and other revenue opportunities versus the cost, every single unit is profitable. And the team that was, the management team before I even got here, really kind of reshaped the company to get us into that position. And it was a long and arduous path to get there. So now as we look at this, we're actually in really solid footing. We're making money across our business units. We're increasing our revenue opportunities every single year. And now we have the opportunity to actually grow and expand because of where we are. And I think that's really an envious place to be in. And now that we have this place, I think you're going to see like the low budget narrative around Immortals kind of changing, because we're going to be showing up and doing more things, more activations physically, digitally, and in person. And I'm really excited. Can I talk about Wild Rift on the show? Am I only allowed to talk about League?
You can talk about Wild Rift.
Okay.
More of an interview, I guess, than a show. But yes, I mean, I personally like Wild Rift, so go for it.
Okay. So we're like, okay, we need to actually expand the company. We're making money across all these units. What's next? We wanted to participate. I'll just give you some behind the scenes. We want to participate in Riot Games because we think Riot's an awesome publisher, a great partner. We wanted to be in mobile because we just see as like the way people are growing up now. They're playing on their phones. It's a lower barrier to entry than needing a high PC. They're playing on iPads. We liked that Wild Rift was connected to League, and potentially there could be a path to connect. And we found a great gamer in Hoon, who we thought could not only be one of the best competitive gamers, but already has one of the largest YouTube subscriptions and one of the most loyal followings. So when you line those things up, we're like, okay, this is a great opportunity for us. It's a young scene. It's one where they're just starting to put competitive actions into it. We think we can actually jump to being like one of the best teams with one of the best players, who has one of the best social followings, with a publisher that's supporting us. And now we want to take the team, and you're going to see us announcing shortly, we're going to be activating the team in areas of scarcity where you may not think Immortals would be showing up. And then all of a sudden, what I think in terms of expansion, what that means is we're in a different game, in a different way, changing our narrative and kind of interacting with fans. So that's one example of something we've already announced that I think is going to change the trajectory of the company.
I really respect the decision to try to operate from a profitable standpoint, especially in a world where I sometimes worry about how crazy the valuations around some of these teams are and what teams are spending. But I still kind of go back to that point of, okay, it's cool that you guys are running profitably. You're like, yeah, we're getting into Wild Rift, which is great. Doesn't have much of an esports scene in the West yet, but like, I'm excited to see if something can happen. Meanwhile, it'll be something like Nadeshot announces Drake has handed him $10 million to hand out to people at a satellite that they crashed in the backyard of the 100 Thieves training facility, and you'll be able to find Courage, and they're bringing Dr. Disrespect out, and like all, Joe Biden is landing a plane nearby. Obviously I'm hyperbole here, but like there's like it is interesting to me sometimes to talk to teams, because I feel like the playing field is so unlevel right now, and you guys are competing for the same pool of fans in a sense. And so I get that it's like you guys have to be scrappy, but I also just wonder at a certain point in time is it are these other brands sometimes like a black hole, and it's just like inescapable for, you guys to pull fans out of that?
I think you're asking the right question, and we ask ourselves the similar questions every day. Here's where I would counter to it. Number one, when orgs do things like that, who's it for? Is it for the owners? Is it for the players? Do fans really get to participate in that? I don't know. I mean, I worked at two esports orgs now. We never had fans at either one of our headquarters. So I'm not sure. And I think it's great to have these like really cool Joe Biden lands a plane. I think that would be very cool. But what does it actually do for the community, and like how does it show up? And just because one team is doing it that way, do we have to follow that direction, or can we have our own direction? And in some ways, is it kind of nice to have two different orgs going at it in a different way? And to that point, I don't believe that we're fighting over the same groups of fans. I think some people are going to be fans of whomever no matter what. But our personal thought is that we think 90% of fans in league and 90% of esports aren't fans today. So like if you think about who the fan group is 10, 15, 20 years from now, some of these people are like 7 to 14 years old. It's like they're not even participating in the ecosystem yet. So in many ways, what we're trying to do is kind of build a foundation that sets us up on a different vertical intentionally, that's not trying to steal fans from them. I learned that at the Clippers. Like I would go into meetings and someone would say, I just want to tell you, I'm a Lakers fan. And I knew like, we're never converting that person.
Yeah.
They're a Lakers fan. But there's other people out there that don't have a team yet or would switch to the Clippers. So I feel like that's very similar with the Immortals, is like, we're not trying to steal fans from other orgs, and we don't want to compete with Drake and the plane and all that stuff. We want to go in a different direction that specifically actually drives value for that next generation of fan who's not with the team yet.
Yeah. Well, it's a fair note to end on, and I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to seeing what else you guys can do in the space, and certainly, talking about differentiating yourself. To your point earlier, a $17 T-shirt instead of a $35 one is a very good differentiator. Is there anything you want to say to any of the fans out there?
Well, first I want to say thank you for having me on the interview, on the show. I really respect and appreciate what you do for the community. I think it's great. I think we need to see like more narrative, more talking, more just kind of like hype around the teams and kind of descriptions of who they are. So I want to say thank you. And then I would say to like the new and current fans of Immortals, like we're trying to get out there in the community, and we're really trying to listen. Like we have literally like contacted immortals.gg. Like we're going to be opening ourselves up to like focus groups, taking direct feedback. Like I really think in order for this to go the way it wants to go, we have to have, I think, which is kind of cool, an open collaborative discussion about like who Immortals was, what part of the past do we want to bring back? Because there's a lot of like really good things that happened in the past, and we had some great fans. What can we bring back to the future? What are the new levels? What are the new games? What are the new areas of opportunities we should be growing and extending to? How do we make League the best and biggest thing possible? And what I think is really cool is like growing up, you didn't have the ability to actually affect the sports team or affect the company. But now the way gaming and esports is, like you have an ability as a fan to like directly talk to me or a head of marketing or a head of, whatever. And the ability to, we're saying, maximally accessible, we mean it. And that's what I'm kind of hoping fans kind of see is like, we're going to be out there. We're going to try new things. Give us a second shot or a first shot even. And if there's thoughts or ideas, you can legitimately reach out and be a part of building it. And I think if we keep an open mind to that, we're going to look like a different company a month from now, 6 months from now, a year, 5, 10 years from now.
Very good. Well, hey, thank you again for the interview. Really appreciate it. For everyone else, you can check out the rest of my coverage of all things LCS right here on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching that video. It's so nice to have you here on my YouTube channel. Why don't you toss a subscribe to the channel while you're here? It's very helpful. Also want to give a big shout out to Alienware. They right now are hosting the Alienware Games. If you've ever wanted to be a pro player, or just not a pro player, but somebody who competes for fun, you can join the Alienware Games. Head over to alienware.com/Travis. They've got League of Legends. They've got other stuff. Maybe you don't play League that much right now. Maybe you're playing something else. Either way, alienware.com/Travis. Click the banner at the top. It's very helpful. We'll see you at Worlds.